Hey, welcome to another video that I have, and this one is a story I have when I was on one of my milk routes. I'm actually a milkman, and on one of the routes I was delivering to, I would always see this girl on like basically swing sets in early morning. Usually I would get there probably around 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. Regular customer, and I had noticed that she was always on the swing set, and this is she's they started during the summer, so they were pretty regular customer. Then the fall came and the weather started getting cold, and then I noticed that she was kind of wearing like the same kind of pajamas like all the time. And not only that, she was um, not dressed appropriately for the temperature. What I mean is that they were kind of like a almost like a summer pajama, and it was getting cold. So again, I never really questioned it. Uh, she really never acknowledged me, and I just kind of like really didn't pay that close attention. So this one day in particular, I drove up and it was actually snowing. There was snow on the ground, and she was on the swing set swinging with her head down, kind of like looking down at the ground as she was going back and forth. And um, it was kind of strange, kind of hard to describe, but she ended up um, stopping on a swing and getting off, and she looked over at me, and I kind of like I can't remember if I gave her kind of like a head nod, like hey, how you doing, or kind of like a wave or something. But then she started coming closer to me, and she goes, "You can see me?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I was like, "Of course I can see you." And she just got this really blank look on her face. And she goes, "I've been trying to talk to my mom for a while and she's not talking to me." So I was like, "Oh," I was like, "Did you do something bad?" And she just kind of looked at me and she goes, "No, she just doesn't she just doesn't talk." And this girl was probably about 10, 11 years old. So I was like, "Oh, that's weird." I was like, "Do you want me to go get her or something?" Because again, I was trying to figure out why she was out in the cold, in the snow, and just like a kind of like a single layer of pajamas. And she goes, "No, no, that's okay." So with that, the garage opened, and as I was putting the milk into um, the milk box, kind of like a cooler, and the mom came out, and at that moment, I kind of like looked up, and they have, I guess, a room over the garage, and I saw this, kind of like older woman, maybe like the grandma or something. She kind of like pushed the curtains aside, and she kind of like waved down to me. So I kind of like waved up, and the woman came out of the garage, and she goes, "Who were you waving to?" And I was like, "Oh, there was I guess a woman up in the, you know, over the garage. I guess that's a bedroom or something." And she goes, "What'd she look like?" So I kind of like described her, um, what she was wearing, and she was a little bit older and stuff. And she goes, "Oh my goodness." She goes, "That's my mom." I'm like, "Oh, okay." She goes, "My mom's been dead for 2 years." And I was just kind of like, I'm like, "Oh." And then when I looked up, I could see the woman kind of step back, and the curtain kind of like flowed back, and I was kind of like looking. I'm like, "Oh," I was like, "Oh, and by the way, your daughter's in the backyard." The woman turned like to like you could see the color leave her face, and she goes, "My daughter died around the time that my mother had passed. My daughter had cancer." And I just kind of like looked at her. I'm like, "She's on the swing." And her mom turned around, and the swing was actually rocking back and forth. I could see the girl on the swing, but evidently the mother couldn't. And she goes, "Oh my god, oh my god!" And she goes, "I have to get out of here." And she hopped in her car in her driveway, and she sped off. Now, keep in mind, this was early in the morning, so she too was like kind of like I don't know if she was like in pajamas, but she kind of like had a house coat on. But she jumped in a car and she took off driving pretty recklessly, leaving the driveway. They had like kind of like I don't know if it was like rocks or something at the end of the driveway, but she turned so sharply that the rear tire actually rubbed up against a tire and bounced back. Now, of course, I'm standing there making my delivery, and I'm just kind of like looking around, trying to figure out what's going on, because I can still see the girl who walked back to the swing, and she's swinging back and forth. And I looked up, and I could kind of see the silhouette of the Muller backed up from the curtains, but you could tell like she was in the room. But anyhow, that was just another experience that I had out on the road, and it was something that I saw the mother and the father later on, a few deliveries later on, which I was kind of happy with. They stayed customers, but they would always ask if I saw their daughter. After that, I saw her frequently, but not as often as I had seen before. So that was like an interesting thing, and I'm not on the milk routes as much anymore. I haven't been for a while, but that was just another experience that I figured I'd share with everybody. So, um, and they looked as real as me and you standing here, and there was no strangeness to their shapes, to their detail. The clarity was completely there. And something I'll discuss in some of my other stories is that I typically see a lot of these spirits. They have ghosts and spirits. They have shapes to them. They're pretty well defined. A lot of them typically don't have clothes on, which is kind of weird. So usually when people start telling me stories and stuff, I'm like, oh, what were they wearing? So that usually kind of clarifies it for me, because if they describe their clothing in great detail, a lot of times I don't know if that's like factual or not factual. My experiences have been that typically their forms, they're pretty detailed. I can make out that they're people and stuff, but a lot of times they just don't have um, like clothing. It's kind of hard to describe. Like, you don't see like, you know like the private areas or anything as being well defined. It's kind of a like ghostly images. But clothing, for some reason, is not something that I've noticed to be really well defined on a lot of figures. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. In this case, the girl with very well defined clothing. They seemed a little older, and the clothing seemed kind of on a dirty side, which was kind of weird. Kind of like just like an outfit that's been worn repetitively without being properly cleaned. So yeah, it goes back and forth. But a lot of times when people always describe to me that they always see people like dressed in clothing and stuff like that, I kind of question what they're actually seeing, because again, in my experience is that most of the time they typically don't have well-defined clothing. A lot of times it's kind of like blurred or kind of manipulated somehow. But anyway, thanks for tuning in and watching. Thanks for, you know, basically following, subscribing. Thanks for any comments, and please leave your comments. I look forward to hearing other stories and stories that I might be able to share on the channel. Be safe out there.